Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by No Halftime. Use promo code BBALL100 to get up to a $100 deposit bonus to use in the app. You can find the No Halftime app on the Apple Store and Amazon.com. And with that, we are off. Welcome to the show for Thursday, November 17th. I'm your host, Daniel Green. You can find me on Twitter at Daniel A. Green1. Green is like the color. Most of you in the DFS realm know me as the judge. Hope you guys are doing well. I am going to be running this show solo. It is very sad. It's my first solo show I think I've done this year. But I think we'll be okay. I did lots of solo shows the last few years. So I'm going to help you break down the beautiful 5-game slate we have for Thursday. Okay, it's not beautiful, but it's actually an interesting slate. I think we can have a lot of fun with it. Hope you guys have made some nice money on Wednesday night. Man, lots of guys went off. Brandon Knight went off. Giannis went off. Oladipo finally might have had his best game of the year for OKC. Wilson Chandler's been playing fantastic. He went nuts. Kenneth Faried, thank God they got rid of the Nurkic-Jokic situation. Kenneth Faried's getting lots of minutes and went balled out of his mind. Porzingis, power forward, was loaded on Wednesday night. I know I was tweeting back and forth with a lot of you guys, and there were just so many solid options at power forward. You really couldn't go wrong. It was all the other positions that were a challenge. So Porzingis went nuts, 50 FanDuel points. Terrence Jones, Anthony Davis was out. He went nuts again. I think he had 40 FanDuel points. Mike Conley out. I think that game right now, the Clippers are playing Memphis. That game's still in the fourth quarter, but Mike Conley is clearly outplaying Cliff Paul, who showed up tonight. Not, I guess CP3 did not want to play, so he sent his brother Cliff. Otto Porter went nuts without Bradley Beal, and John Wall was on a minute restriction on Wednesday night. And Joakim Noah, who I can't stand, this steroid-using mother effer. He had a really good game. He had 38 FanDuel points. He's been killing me this year. Whenever I play him, he plays 12 minutes. So hopefully you guys had a lot of those guys in your lineup on Wednesday night. Hopefully you did not play. Who were the dream killers on Wednesday night? Kelly Olynyk. God, he crushed our lineups. It crushed our soul. 3.9K on FanDuel and only put up 12 FanDuel points. Harden and Westbrook, they went off and matched up against each other. Both of them kind of had subpar nights, especially James Harden. Barely had 40 FanDuel points at his price tag of 11.5K. That was very disappointing. And Lord Covington just sucked. Him and Richard Hollis-Jefferson, or Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, the two guys that they're boom or bust. GPP only plays, so Covington crushed a lot of my lineups tonight. But overall, it was a decent night. So I hope you guys had fun with it. There were 11 games on Wednesday, so it was a crazy night. Thursday, as always, not as loaded. Only 5 games, which I like because, I think you have enough time to analyze each game, to know who you want to play, and I think it levels the playing field from the professional guys. So I like the slate. There are teams playing on back-to-backs, which shows you got to look out for these teams: the Knicks, Washington, Milwaukee, Houston, and Philly. We do have some injuries also to notice or to watch out for. Goran Dragic for Miami right now, he's questionable, I think, with an ankle. So stay on the lookout for the news on Thursday to find out if he's going to play. If he's out, Tyler Johnson and Josh Richardson have been tremendous plays for the past couple games. Also, Dion Waiters has been a really strong play. God help us all, Dion Waiters. He's a crazy basketball player to watch. But he's cheap, and if Dragic is out, his usage rate is sky high right now. So he's probably a guy you can play. So look out for Dragic. Rondo for Chicago. If Rondo is out, my boy Jay Grant went nuts. He started. A lot of people thought Cannon was going to start. They went with Grant, and he had a tremendous game. He outplayed Damian Lillard. So if Rondo is out, I'm going to be using a lot of Grant, I think, on Thursday, even though I know Chicago's against Utah. The Washington news, be on the lookout for. John Wall, I don't know what the hell they're doing with his minutes. He only played 24 in a horrible loss to Philly on Wednesday. So I'm not sure if I'm going to want John Wall. Now, they need to start winning some games, but it looks like they're not going to give him more than 30 minutes, so probably a tournament play only on Thursday. Bradley Beal is questionable. That Wizard team is just an absolute dreadful mess. So we can take advantage of it in terms of DFS, but just in real life basketball, they suck. What a disaster. Scott Brooks is just off to a horrendous start for them. Best game of the night is Portland-Houston, 218.5 over-under. Damian Lillard's coming off his worst game of the year. Now, Houston's coming on a back-to-back, but I still hopefully this game will stay close. You're going to want to attack a lot of players in this game. I'm taping this. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning on late Wednesday night, so a lot of over-unders aren't up because of all the injury news we're waiting on. So that over-under seems tasty, and the Philly-Minnesota game, Minnesota's an 11-point favorite, so Vegas thinks this could be a blowout, and Philly's on a back-to-back, but the over-under is 214, so there's a lot of good plays in that game as well. Although if you look at, we can go through this, whatever, I'll just do it now. I mean, Philly is just infuriating to play. Any guy from that team. Coach Brown, I think I made this joke on Twitter with the Lakers and Philly. It's basically their coaches are like Oprah giving away cars. I mean, they give away minutes like Oprah gives away cars. You get 24 minutes. You get 24 minutes. You get 24 minutes. Everybody gets 24 minutes. It's a pain in the you-know-what for DFS purposes. So if you look at Philly on Wednesday night, I mean, Covington, 23 minutes. Ersan Ilyasova, who started, 26 minutes. Okafor, 20 minutes. Jared freaking Henderson, the worst player in the NBA, or one of them, he gets the most minutes on the team, 28. Sergio Rodriguez, 28 minutes. Played well, actually. Rashard Holmes, 19 minutes. Saric, off the bench, 26 minutes. Nick Stauskas, 24 minutes. TJ freaking McConnell, 20 minutes. Hollis Thompson, 23 minutes. So 10 guys got basically between 19 and 28 minutes. Welcome to Philadelphia 76ers basketball. The only good news is that Embiid did not play on Wednesday, so he's probably going to play on Thursday. And Okafor played on Wednesday, so he's probably going to be out. So even though Embiid's price is rising, I know a lot of you guys love either watching him play and also rostering him in DFS. So let's get down to the plays, man, for Thursday. At point guard, again, so on 5 games, on a small slates, couple things. One, I don't play as much as I usually would, and I normally play more tournaments than I do cash games because just in cash games it's very hard to differentiate your lineups. So that's my own strategy. You guys can kind of do what you think works best for you. Point guard, not feeling this position on Thursday, not at all. I mean, Damian Lillard, 9.6K. I mean, I guess right now I have him for cash at Houston, the best over-under of the game, of the night. I guess they'll put James Harden on him for part of the game. But I bet you Houston rotates different defenders on him. They might put Corey Brewer on him, Ariza, Eric Gordon. Still, it doesn't concern me too much. The 9.6K price tag, though, is pretty expensive for Lillard. He's coming off his worst game of the year against the Bulls. They got actually absolutely blitzed by the Bulls a couple nights ago. But Lillard is just, his usage rate is so high. His minutes are locked in. As long as that game stays close, he's really safe. So I probably still would use him for cash. John Wall, 8.9K. We just mentioned he's on this weird minute restrictions now. He only played 24 minutes against Philly on Wednesday, but he still put up 41 FanDuel points. I mean, the problem now, I see him, 30 minutes tops on Thursday. I do not want to play him in cash because I just don't know what to expect. I mean, the problem is I still think he's probably got a safe floor, but now the ceiling is limited if those minutes are limited. So they're playing the Knicks. I love the matchup versus Derrick Rose. If he wasn't on minute restriction, he's probably a guy I would love for tournaments. But I'll probably throw him in a couple lineups in tournaments, but I don't want a ton of exposure at 8.9K. Unless I hear he's gonna play a full allotment of minutes, which as of right now he's just not going to. What a mess. Next up, a guy who may be in my cash lineups depending on if Dragic plays or not, and that's Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio is 6.6K, so the price has come up a little bit. Versus Philly, so really nice matchup. I think he's just he's got a pretty safe floor. He's put up 31 and 34 FanDuel points in the last 2 games, playing 34.5 minutes. So, He's another one of the guys where I don't think the ceiling is fantastic. I don't think he's going to go out and give you 50 FanDuel points, but a safe play. I'm a tad worried about the blowout versus Philly, but I'm definitely going to have some Rubio exposure. I don't mind him for cash. He's okay for tournaments on Thursday as well. Next up, Derrick Rose. Rose is a guy who should be in prison, and I don't want a lot of Rose, especially on a back-to-back. If he was coming off a couple days rest, I'd probably give him a harder look. The 5.7K is not. I think that's a fair price for him. He played 34 minutes on Wednesday. That's the biggest number that scares me. So, and he put up 27 FanDuel points, and I think that's about as good as you can hope for on Thursday. I mean, if he gives you 27 FanDuel points, you're probably going to do some jumping jacks. And at that 5.7K price tag, I just don't think it's worth it for me. I think the floor is okay, but I think the ceiling is definitely limited, especially on that back-to-back. So I don't want me a ton of D Rose. And John Wall is a sneaky good defender too. Tyler Johnson's next up. I guess Rondo. Rondo's, wait on the news for Rondo. If Rondo plays versus Utah, the price has come crashing down to 5.5K. One, because he's just not very good anymore. Two, he does not fit with this Bulls team anymore, very well. Three, they've been benching him in fourth quarters, so the minutes have been coming down. So I don't love Rondo, but if he does play, if the news breaks late in the day, maybe I'll throw a couple darts just in large tournaments because he'll be low owned. Otherwise, though, not a really nice, not a safe play at all. And definitely I wouldn't play him for cash right now. And it's at Utah, so that Chicago's going to be playing way down in pace. Tyler Johnson, 5K. He's locked into 30 plus minutes if Dragic is out. I think he's a pretty safe play. I mean, he's been 15 FanDuel points, 32, 17, 29, 21, 33, 37. So not as safe as I guess you would think if you're getting 30 plus minutes. But I like the matchup versus Milwaukee. I still think he's got a nice floor. I love that the minutes are locked in. And he's a guy that I'll be using a decent amount just because point guard, again, it's not that great. So I'll definitely have some T. Johnson exposure on FanDuel. Now the question is, was he safe enough for cash? If Dragic is out, I think he is, and it's 5K. It allows you to spend up at other positions. So I think he's okay. I mean, I don't love it, but I think he's solid for Thursday. Sergio Rodriguez is next up for Philly. Philly's on the back-to-back. He played 28 minutes on Wednesday. Out of all the Sixers, he's probably the one guy who's the safest, quite honestly, in terms of minutes. And he had 12 assists on Wednesday. And I think me and Tyler mentioned this on the season-long show. If he's still available in your season-long leagues, I would snatch him up for season-long. He's getting double-digit assists on a somewhat frequent basis, so almost every other game or so right now. So I think he should be owned in season long for sure. And in DFS, he's only 5K, so he's a guy with limited upside, safe floor. So if you want to use him in cash on Thursday, I'm fine with it. The back-to-back at Minnesota worries me maybe a tad, but not too much. Again, he's cheap, 5K. He's going to get 25 minutes for Philly, and I think he's going to give you has a floor of about 20 FanDuel points, which is okay. Other than that, let's see. B. Jennings. Brandon Jennings is 4K. I've used Brandon Jennings on a couple nights when the Bulls have back-to-backs. Otherwise, I haven't been playing him. On back-to-backs, his minutes go up a little bit. He's a sneaky play if you want to throw him in a large tournament, but probably not going to get enough minutes to take you over the top. But I do like the 4K price tag. Jerry and Grant, if Rondo's out, feel free to use him in cash games. Feel free to use him in tournaments, man. I mean, I don't know if he got 35 FanDuel points last game. I don't know if he's going to get that again. But even against Utah, I think he easily can get you 20 FanDuel points. And at that 4K salary, really opens up the rest of your lineup. So if Rondo is out, feel free to use Grant on Thursday. Let's move over to shooting guard. The bearded one, James Harden. Tin Man. I think he has no heart. I hate James Harden as a player. I don't like watching him play. I think he's boring. But with that said, he's still a monster. He's still one of the best plays in fantasy and DFS. Just the one thing I'll say about watching him play on Wednesday night, and I watched that whole Oklahoma City game, Roberson did a tremendous job guarding him. And to Harden's credit, he wasn't forcing a shot. He was passing the ball really well. He had 13 assists, and his shot just wasn't falling. So he only had 41 FanDuel points. His price went up a little bit to 11.7K. I do love the matchup versus Portland and versus C.J. McCollum. God, C.J. McCollum is just an atrocious defender. So as of right now, James Harden is going to be a cash game play for me. I'm a tad concerned, but just everything's usage are too high, minutes too high, matchups too good. So I still love me some Harden on Thursday. Next up, Giannis. I mean, man, I wish I would have played more Giannis on Wednesday night. He was better than Harden and Westbrook and all those guys. 57 FanDuel points. He's had over 52 FanDuel points the last 2 games. The only thing that worries me is that on Wednesday night against Atlanta, he played 40 minutes, 26 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 blocks, 1 steal. Just, God, I love Giannis. So on a back-to-back, I think that production could come down a little. At Milwaukee, he's not the best over/under. And he's expensive, but he's still worth every dime. I still think you can absolutely use him for cash. And for tournaments, he has the upside as well. So, I still like Giannis on Thursday as well. With that said, Harden and Giannis are going to be so highly owned. So I think you have other options to look at if you want to for shooting guard. One of those is C.J. McCollum, 7.5K. So this one-trick pony, his price has been coming up too. He's coming off, another bad game versus the Bulls, but Portland got blown out, so I'm not going to really use that too much. Before that, I would not use him for cash games just because he's more of he's guys who are so scoring dependent scare me. Plus, he's had games of 17 FanDuel points, 13 FanDuel points, 27, 27, but he also can get you 50 plus. So he's a tournament only guy, but against Harden in that fast tempo game, I'm definitely going to stack, have lineups where I stack this game. For tournaments, he's a fantastic play on Thursday night. Plus, I'm sure they're going to put. I'm trying to think who's Houston going to use to defend C.J. McCollum. Harden's got to defend somebody. So if I could see them putting Harden on McCollum instead of Lillard. So, I think McCollum could have a really nice night. Next up, D Wade. I do not play D Wade on back-to-backs, but other than that, I do play him if he's had a couple days rest. He looked good a couple nights ago, man. He had 31 minutes, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, 2 steals, 38 FanDuel points. His price has come down because his production has been, inconsistent due to the fact that on back-to-backs he stinks. D Wade's my favorite player in the league. In terms of just as a fan, I've loved him since he came in the league. So I love D Wade, but in terms of DFS, he's old. He's 34, almost 35 years old. You can't play him on back-to-backs, but on Thursday when he has a day of rest, I think it's a decent play. I mean, the problem with him these days is what's his ceiling, right? I think his floor is okay. They're playing Utah, so not the best matchup in the world, but I think that will make him low-owned and a little bit sneaky. So I'm going to play D Wade a little more than I probably would, just because I think people are not going to want to play him against Utah, and people are going to want to use McCollum and Harden. But 6.5K, that's a fair price for Wade. Just, the problem is the ceiling is not as high as it used to be. I mean, he's like as high this year. Let's see, he's had 2 games in the 40s. So. I probably wouldn't use him in cash on Thursday, but I still think he's warranted in GPPs, and his ownership will be pretty low. Relative to the 5-game slate. Zach LaVine is next up, 6.1K versus Philly. I like the matchup. LaVine's a guy who's burned me this year. He's a boomer bust guy. He's had a couple duds of 9 FanDuel points, 19. So the 6K I think is a little pricey for him. his minutes. I like his minutes, man. 33, 40, 36, 40 minutes. Now, a couple of those were when Rubio was out. Since Rubio's back, I think his minutes go down a little bit. So he's a guy that I would only use for tournaments. I don't want him for cash games at that price, but I do like the matchup versus Philly. And he's a guy that, that has a little bit of upside, but I don't love that play. I do love the matchup, though. I mean, anyone can go off against Philly. I mean, Philly's guards cannot defend at all. I mean, Rodriguez, as much as he can give you some assists, he's an atrocious defender. I mean, God, they play Stauskas, McConnell. Those bums. So, the more I think about it, maybe you want to, have a couple lineups where you do stack the Minnesota players and just hope that game stays close. Rodney Hood, 5.3K versus Chicago. I don't mind this play. I think it's pretty safe. He's a guy who's been rock solid. His price has not gone up. The main reason his price hasn't gone up is because his upside is not tremendous, but a very nice floor. If you want to roll him out in cash, I think it's a safe play. Tournaments, he's okay, just not tremendous upside with him, and he'll be matched up against D-Wade. D-Wade's not the defender he used to be, so he'll be able to get some decent shots. Since Gordon Hayward has come back, Rodney Hood's shots have come down a little, but, and I don't know if we mentioned this or not at the top of the show, Derek Favors is going to be out on Thursday. So the fact that Derek Favors is going to be out for Utah, that opens up some shots. So I think there's going to be some more shots for Hayward, some more shots for Hood. Did we mention George? Did I not mention George Hill? Oh, because George Hill is a game-time decision too. More shots for whoever starts at point guard for Utah. So, yeah. So Rodney Hood's an interesting play at 5.3K on Thursday. I'm definitely going to be using me some Hood. I gotta think about if I want to use him in cash games. Eric Gordon, 5.2K. Dear God, Eric Gordon. I had a lot of lineups tonight where I was stacking that Houston OKC game for Wednesday night. He lets me down almost every night. I don't even want to talk about him anymore. Can we just move on? How about that? Let's move on. God, I hate Eric Gordon. Looking at his game logs, he's consistently mediocre. 25 FanDuel points, 18. One good game of 38, 20, 17, 18, 26, 25, 18. So, he's decent floor, not much upside. The only reason I would have exposure to him is because it's a small slate of 5 games, and I do love that Portland-Houston game. It's the highest over-under of the night. So, in lineups where I stack that game, I'll use a little bit of Gordon, but I don't love that play. There's nothing in watching him play that says he's gonna go off on any given night. His hit the okay floor, but the ceiling just isn't there. Dion Waiters, 4.5K. Dude, if Dragic is out, I was giving a bunch of people on Twitter a hard time, and but I can't argue with playing Dion Waiters. The usage rate's phenomenal. The thing you got to worry about is he's a boomer bust guy. He's a one-trick pony. He's scoring dependent. The last 3 games, basically say it all. 18 FanDuel points, 40, and 6. He could do either of those 3. Would not be surprised at all. The minutes too. The last two games have been great for minutes, averaging 35. Before that, he got 19. But if Dragic is a no-go, he's locked into like 35 minutes, man. So, using him in cash is a scary proposition. I know a lot of you guys did it on, I think, Tuesday night, and it worked out okay. He basically hit value or got close. He's a guy who does have upside. I think he shot 5 for 17 a couple nights ago. So if his shot's on at 4.5K, he could hit like 7-8 times value, and that's what you need to take down a GPP. So I don't mind Dion Waiters. A guy who I like for Miami more is Josh Richardson. He's 4.3K. I actually used him a ton on Tuesday night instead of Dion Waiters, and it worked out for me. He's starting if Dragic is out. He played 38 minutes, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. The good thing about Josh Richardson is he fills up the stat sheet. Doesn't need just to score points. He's kind of a do-it-all player. The Heat are really high on him. So if Dragic is out, I think I'm going to be using Josh Richardson in cash games, and I will use him in tournaments a lot too. He's got a lot of upside. Other than that, let's see. Alan Crabb. I mean, only thing I'll say about Alan Crabb, I mean, since Aminu's been out, he's been getting 30-plus minutes. I mean, last 3 games, 24, 8, and 32 FanDuel points. So, you know, if you could tell me there's a guy at 3.8K that's capable of scoring 32 FanDuel points and giving you 8 times value, you got to consider him, I guess, right? So, you know, maybe you want to use Crabb, you know, and plus it's the best game of the night. So if you want to use Crabb, I mean, go ahead. I'm not going to be big on Crabb, but maybe I'll have a little bit of him in some big GPPs. Moving on, small forward, Jimmy Buckets. Best player in the NBA last week of the season. He will be the Eastern Conference Player of the Week coming up for this week. Dude, he's been a beast. 45 FanDuel points, 64, 36, 62 last 4 games. His usage is phenomenal, especially when Rondo goes out more. So if Rondo's out, I'm super high on Jimmy. I mean, I think he's a good play on Thursday anyway. I mean, obviously the pace versus Utah is going to impact it a little, so I think he's not going to see a 60 FanDuel point night, but he's still easily capable of giving you a 50 FanDuel point night. Yeah, I think, you know, his price, 8.5K, is fair. He's just playing too good right now to ignore. So, you know, he'll probably be in my cash games, and I think he's tournament worthy as well. You know, yeah. I'm trying to look at see how good Gordon Hayward's defense is. It's okay, whatever. That's not going to scare me from playing Jimmy Buckets. Next up is Carmelo. So, you know, Carmelo is like D Wade. I don't like to play these guys on back-to-backs. So Carmelo on Wednesday night played 37 minutes. Oh God. So you want to play a guy with you know, I mean, Wade's knees are, you know, if Wade is like 35 in real life, his knees are about 65. Carmelo's, I think, 32 or 33 in real life. His knees are about 60 years old. So I don't want a ton of Carmelo. Tournaments only for sure. 7.9K at Washington. Washington cannot defend, you know, the 3 spot though. Otto Porter is a atrocious defender. So maybe I'll use Carmelo in some tournaments and hope he takes some steroids like Joakim Noah did on Wednesday. Has a good game. I mean, the 7.9K scares me because Carmelo is a guy who just doesn't have the upside anymore. He's not a guy that's going to get you 50 FanDuel points anymore. He hasn't done that all year. I mean, every game he's in the 30s to really low 40s. So the floor is okay, but even on a back-to-back, the floor would scare me. I don't want Carmelo in cash, a little bit in tournaments. Gordon Hayward. He's been phenomenal this year. You know, Jimmy Butler, though, is going to be defending him. Jimmy Butler is one of the best defenders in the game right now. That worries me a little bit. But I think he, you know, especially with no Derek Favors, I think Gordon Hayward is a safe play. If you want to use Jimmy Butler and Hayward for your 2 small forwards in cash on FanDuel, totally fine with that. I'm not sure what his upside is. Like, can Hayward get us a 50 FanDuel point night? I think so. I don't know if he's going to do it on Thursday. I'll probably look elsewhere for tournaments for the most part, but I will use a little Gordon. And he's played well. And I do like the fact with no Derek Favors, those extra shots got to go to someone, so why not him? Andrew Wiggins, dear God, his price has come up to 7K. I mean, these one-trick ponies, DeMar DeRozan's now like 14K. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. He's like 9K, but still. I mean, Andrew Wiggins, 7K. That sounds crazy, but then you look at his numbers. The last 5 games, and especially since Rubio's been back, he's been on a tear. 36, 56, 30, 41, 47. I think that makes, you know, against first Philly, I mean, it's pricey, but he seems to be worth it, man. I have not been playing him, and it's been hurting me. So if you want to use Wiggins against Philly, I mean, Covington's a decent defender, but Covington only plays like 22 to 24 minutes a night. So I don't mind Wiggins. I still am not going to use him for cash. I think that's too expensive, but I think he's a solid tournament play. Otto Porter. I faded him entirely on Wednesday night, and I was wrong. I should have played him. 6K. He's a boomer bust guy, though. I'm not a big fan for cash. Although I guess if Bradley Beal's going to be out and John Wall is on this minute restrictions, I got to reconsider my thinking here. And maybe he is a cash game player. I mean, he's had a couple duds this year, and that's for sure. But the 6K price tag, I mean, his upside, though, he's got a game of 69 FanDuel points. I mean, come on. Not many guys in the league can do that. He had 42 FanDuel points on Wednesday night. He's had like 3 or 4 games this year of 40 FanDuel points, one of 69. Sure, he's a guy who could kill your lineup, especially on a back-to-back. You know, Carmelo's not the best defender in the world. I'm definitely going to have me some Otto on Thursday. The question is, do I want to use him in cash? As of now, I will not. But I think his floor is pretty safe if Beal's going to be out and John Wall is on this minute restrictions. Just too many shots for Otto right now, and he's playing really well. Trevor Ariza, 5.3K. I played him a lot on Wednesday night, and he came through for me, man. He's been pretty solid lately. He had 31 FanDuel points for me on Wednesday night. I played him on Monday. He had 39 FanDuel points for me. So he's shooting the ball a little better lately. The thing I like about him is he doesn't need to only score. He gets steals. Look at his last 5 games, just steals. 4 steals, 3, 4, and 3 steals. So I mean, at 2 points a pop, that's giving you like 8 FanDuel points a night just on steals. So 5.3K. That his price actually came up a little bit, but that's a fair price for him. I think he's got a safe floor against Portland. The ceiling's not great, but I think if you want to use him in tournaments, you can. But if you want to roll out Ariza in cash, I think it's a pretty safe play these days. Justice Winslow. I guess we did not mention Winslow for injury news. He's dealing with a wrist injury. If he is out, that was the main reason that Dion Waiters was locked into these big minutes, I think. So just check the news and see if Winslow's playing or not. If Winslow's out, then that's when we love Josh Richardson, Tyler Johnson, and Dion Waiters. If Winslow is playing, I think Dion Waiters is a guy who probably would take a hit for me. I still like Josh Richardson as long as Dragic is out. Bob Lord Covington just breaks my heart every time I play him. Him and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson just crush me. I mean, they're so inconsistent, or they just suck at basketball. I mean, I can't figure it out. I mean, the last 2 games for Covington, the minutes have infuriated me, 23 and 14 minutes, and the FanDuel points, obviously. If you're not playing minutes, you can't score FanDuel points, 12 and 8. So he's a tournament-only play. I mean, he's so dirt cheap at 4.6K. Andrew Wiggins is not a great defender. So I'll probably go back to the well and use him in some tournaments again on Thursday, but I'm not going to be happy with myself for doing it, and I'm sure I'm going to throw a remote at the TV when he sucks again. So he's so annoying to watch. Mo Harkless. Since Aminu's out, he's locked into 30 minutes a night. A relatively safe play, a guy with not much upside. He's not going to give you more than 30 FanDuel points. But if you want to save some money, use him in cash games. You can go ahead with that. My sneaky ninja play of the night is Evan Turner. He's only 3.9K. Look, on a 5-game slate, we got to find some sneaky plays. Best game of the night in terms of over/under. He's looked better, man, lately. I'm not going to count the last game because Portland got blown out by Chicago. The game before that, 29 minutes versus Denver, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 32 FanDuel points. At 3.9K, that's a guy giving you 8 times value, basically, potentially. So I'm going to use me some Evan Turner in tournaments and hope he leads me to glory. It's risky, but Portland needs. I mean, they need him. I know Coach Terry Stotts has said he's trying to find ways to get him more minutes on the court, get him more comfortable in the system. So Evan Turner's a guy that I'll be looking to on Thursday. Joe Ingles. Man, if Derek Favors is out, which he is, I think Ingles started last game for Utah, and he put up 20 and he put up 30 FanDuel points. Played 33 minutes, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. So I think if as long as we hear Ingles is starting, he's safe for cash games. He's safe for tournaments. He's going to be high owned. I love me some Joe Ingles for Thursday. Absolutely. Lock and load if he starts. All right, power forward. Man, you need a sip of water. Power forward, just brace yourself. If you guys are listening to this podcast and you're, standing up, maybe you want to sit down because it's ugly. It's scary. If I had like some haunted house music, I'd probably play that right now because I hate everyone. I might actually just play 0 power forwards at FanDuel and just take zeros. Because I think some of these guys are going to end up with negative FanDuel points. Like Kyle Korver did for me last night. Kyle Korver. That piece of crap. I played him on Tuesday night. I think he ended the first half with -2 FanDuel points. And then tonight, on Wednesday night, he went nuts. I think he had over 30 FanDuel points. Go figure. Anyway, that's DFS life, man. Power forward, Porzingis. On a back-to-back, he's probably the Nick that I will target the most for sure. 6.9K. Coming off a monster game, 51 FanDuel points versus Detroit. 40 minutes. So that worries me a little on a back-to-back, but he's like 20 years old, so he should be okay. 35 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, 1 steal. Clearly, the Knicks have figured out that, hey, this guy's pretty good. Maybe we should pass him the ball. Hey, Derrick Rose, why don't you get Porzingis the ball? He's been pretty solid. Wow, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the last 7 games, his worst game has been 27 FanDuel points. And his best has been the one he had on Wednesday at 51. But so he's now come to a spot where his floor is pretty safe. He's 35 FanDuel points, about 34, 33, 34, 35 to get value. That's about his floor these days. So he's safe for cash games. Maybe a tad risky. But power forward's so bad on Thursday that I probably will use him in cash games and tournaments, obviously, because the upside's there. And the matchup versus Washington and Markieff Morris, pretty nice matchup for him. The pace should be pretty nice. There's no over-under yet because we're waiting on the Beal and Wall news, but I do like this matchup for Porzingis. The only problem is he's going to be super high owned because of recency bias, and so he could be 40% owned in tournaments, something like that. The forgotten one, Jabari Parker. Everyone overlooks him. I know I do. Wednesday night, he had 42 FanDuel points. On I think Saturday night, he had 49 FanDuel points. Dude, he's pretty consistent. He's got a pretty safe floor. He's locked into basically 35 minutes a night. 6.4Ks. At first I thought that was a little pricey for him, but when you take a look at his box scores, he's totally worth it, man. He's safe. He's a safe playing cash games. Now, the issue here is at Miami. The over-under has not been released yet because we're waiting on injury news. It's probably going to be a really slow pace. So the upside may be limited a little bit, but I think I still, if you want to use him in cash games, I think it's fine. And for tournaments, I think he's okay as well, just because power forward is so piss poor on Thursday. Markieff Morris, 5.9K. If Beal is out and if Wall's limited, I will definitely have a lot of exposure to Markieff in tournaments. I'm not going to use him in cash. He's too volatile, too angry. I mean, God only knows what could happen when you're talking about Markieff Morris in an NBA basketball game. But he does have upside. On Wednesday, he picked up 2 fouls in the first minute of the game, and I played him in a couple lineups. I was furious. He came back and put up 24 FanDuel points for me in basically 3 quarters. So he put up 48 FanDuel points over the weekend. He's got tremendous upside, and the usage and shots are there, especially if Beal is out and Wall is limited. So I do like me some Markieff for tournaments on Thursday. Taj Gibson, 5.5K versus Utah. Cash game play only for me, not much of a ceiling. He's only been over 30 FanDuel points one time this year. So, you know, if you play him, he's usually got a pretty safe floor. Usually gets 32 minutes. He plays super hard. Will probably give you a cheap double-double of like 10 points, 10 rebounds, but he's going to struggle to get 30 FanDuel points, and then, you know, you hope he gets like 25. So, okay for cash. Probably I'll look elsewhere. Gorgie Dang. Finally, this guy's price has come way down. It was like 6.4K a week ago. Now it's 5.4K. Much more reasonable. His production has suffered. His minutes have come down. So I think he's not a cash game play right now. I think if you want to roll him up for tournaments versus just an atrocious Philadelphia team, that's fine to do. He's still going to get you 30 minutes. But is he still going to get 35? Not sure. He got 33 last game, 26 FanDuel points. So I like him. I think he's a sneaky play, quite honestly, for tournaments on Thursday. I don't mind it. You can play anyone against Philly. So I am happy about the price coming down on Dang, that's for sure. Ryan Anderson, at 5K, I'll use him in tournaments, but he's been shooting so bad, so utterly freaking bad. I mean, he was 1 for 13 a couple nights ago. I can't even remember the last time this guy had shot the ball well. My computer's freezing up on me. But if you look at his just FanDuel points, so he's got to get at 5K, he's got to get 25 FanDuel points. The last 3, 17, 17, 15. That's not going to cut it, man. Can't play him for cash. He does have upside though. He's had a couple games over 30, and he's a streaky shooter. So if he ever comes out of a slump, I think he's going to be low owned because he's been shooting so piss poor and his production's been so bad. But he's getting minutes, man. He's getting over 30 minutes, and he's getting a lot of wide open shots. He's just missing. It's just annoying. So at 5K though, that's really cheap. In that high over/under game, high fast-paced game versus Portland, I think if you want to use him in tournaments, I'm fine with it. Mirotic, 4.2K. He's just not getting the minutes to be cash game worthy, but you can throw him in some tournaments and hope he goes off. I mean, he's got upside. There's going to be it's going to be a handful of times this year where he gets 35, 40 FanDuel points. So he's a tournament guy. Saric, 4.1K. I mean, everyone heard Saric that the Philly was starting Ersan Ilyasova, and Saric was coming off the bench. So everyone rushed to put Ersan in their lineup. Or if you did play one of the two, you played Ersan probably on Wednesday night. Ersan did okay, ended up with 19 FanDuel points, but Saric ended up playing more minutes off the bench and had more FanDuel points, had 25 FanDuel points, 13 actual points, 12 rebounds. So Saric at 4.1K, he's still a safe play. I'll be using him on Thursday. I'm going to use him in some tournaments. He's probably safe for cash games too. I mean, he's going to get 25 minutes. So no Okafor, Embiid is playing. Saric is fine. Speaking of Philly, Ersan Ilyasova, just mentioned him, 3.9K. The last couple games, he's been pretty good. 20 FanDuel points the last two. Before that, he had 18, then 30. So he's basically getting around 24 minutes a night for Philly. I don't think he's got tremendous upside, but a decent floor and 3.9K. Him and Saric, I mean, hell, you could throw Saric and Ilyasova in a lineup if you really want to save money and save at power forward. They're both probably going to hit value. They're just so dirt cheap. All right, let's move on to center. Whipping through this show, man. The one-man show. I do not like a one-man show. First of all, I'm talking to myself. Secondly, if I make jokes, there's no one here to laugh. Man. All right, let's move on to center. Whiteside, his price has come up. That's annoying. 8.9K now. The last two games, he's been really good, man. Against Atlanta, he was a beast. 19 points, 25 rebounds. 25 rebounds. Dear God. So Clearly, no Dragic. Winslow's questionable. Milwaukee cannot defend bigs, by the way. So Milwaukee is a team I do like to target. I do like to target their bigs. I mean, Greg Monroe, John Henson. Who's going to guard Whiteside? I mean, he has a delicious matchup here. I think if you want to use him in cash games, I'm totally fine with it. Tournaments as well. Karl Anthony Towns. He's been kind of a frustrating guy this year. He hasn't had that explosion game. I guess he had one game of 56. Other than that, he's been okay. He's been fine. He's become a relatively safe play the last, I'd say, 6, 7, 8 games. His floor seems to be about 35 FanDuel points. The minutes are beautiful. He's getting 38 minutes a game in the last 2, and around 38 FanDuel points. So, I mean, the problem here is he's barely hitting value. I mean, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, last 6 games, he's only hit value 1 time. Now, he's been close the rest of the games, but he's not quite there. So that may make me want Hassan more in cash games. But for tournaments, man, you can use Towns in cash too, just because, I mean, I do love the fact that Towns against Embiid, that's going to be a fascinating matchup to watch. I'll probably roll out Whiteside in cash and use Towns more in tournaments, but that will be just a cool game to watch and see how they do against each other, Towns and Embiid. Rudy Gobert, a guy that I never play. I just never play this guy. Wow, he was like an 8K player last year. Normally, with Derek Favors out, I'd be like, our typical center, you'd be like, wow, maybe that guy, you should have some more exposure. But Gobert's not an offensive guy. He's not going to score you points. You're rostering him for defensive stats. And those numbers have been down this year a little bit too. I think he'll be low owned. And if you want to roll him out in tournaments against the Bulls, you can. I just don't love the matchup. I don't love the upside. I mean, he hasn't had a game of 40 FanDuel points this year. He could crush your lineups at 6.4K. I mean, last game against Memphis, that's a tough matchup versus Marc Gasol, only 17 FanDuel points. But it's a sneaky play for Thursday. I'll probably use him in, let's say if I have 20 lineups, I'd probably use Gobert in like 2 to 3. Gortat, 6.4K. Gortat's, he's just a safe guy. If you don't want to spend up and use Whiteside and Towns, and let's say you only have around 6.5K around that value, Gortat's totally fine for cash games. He did play 39 minutes on Wednesday night, so he is coming on that back-to-back. Be a little weary of that. Otherwise, though, he's a guy. I think you can get him. He's going to get you between 25 and 35 FanDuel points every night right now. So he's not going to. I don't think he's capable of exploding because he doesn't have the offensive game to go out and get his own shot a lot. But he's a hustle guy. He does enough for you. So if you want to use it in cash games, I think that's fine. If you don't have the money for Whiteside Towns, totally fine with you going down to Gortat. Joel Embiid. Everybody loves Embiid, but do you love his price? Do you love his price? It's 5.6K now. That's, I know he has like the highest usage rate in the league or second highest next to Westbrook. It's just really hard for me to play a guy on a 24-minute restriction at 5.6K. I mean, he's got to give me now 26 to 27 FanDuel points to hit value, which he's basically done every night. But, I can't play him in cash at that price anymore. I just, again, I mean, Towns is not a great defender. I mean, although I could see them putting Gorgie Dang on Embiid. The usage is phenomenal. I want to play Embiid on Thursday. I just don't know how I'm going to do it yet. Actually, you know what? If you want to use him in cash, I guess cash games would be the route to go with Embiid because the ceiling was the issue, right? If you're only playing 24 minutes, I mean, how many FanDuel points are you going to get? I mean, he does have games of 39 and 36 and 35. So, I know a lot of you are going to use Embiid. I'm just getting nervous. One, he's got to have a bad night, right? He's yet to have a bad game, really. You know, and two, 24 minutes, man. You can only do so much in 24 minutes. I know. I mean, I've said it. If not on the show, I say it to myself every night. He's been proving me wrong, so maybe he'll do it again on Thursday. But I will not use a ton of Embiid. But I can't. You know, if you want to use him, go ahead, because I can't argue with the production. I can't. I want to, but I look at his numbers and they're fantastic. And I love watching him play too. Greg Monroe, 5.5K. Maybe as a dart. I think the Bucks started John Henson on Wednesday. I know Greg Monroe only got 7 minutes against Atlanta and had 8 FanDuel points. So we should all be worried about Greg Monroe right now. Let's move on. Don't play Greg Monroe. Mason Plumlee. A cash game, he's been a consistency monster. You want to use him for cash and save a little money for a value play at center. Totally fine with it, man. He's just been rock steady. Look at his production. 25, 27, 33, one game of 14. But that was against the Clippers when they got blown out, so I'm not counting that. 25, 21, 38, 26, 23, 23, 37. I mean, dear God. Like, he's been overlooked. He's playing not even huge minutes. He's been putting up really solid production, in around 27, 28 minutes a game. So beautiful matchup at Houston. I love me some Plumlee. I mean, man, as of right now, I have Whiteside in my cash game lineup, but I might switch over to Plumlee. That price tag might be too good to pass up right now. Just a beautiful play for Thursday night. I love me some Plumlee. Another guy who I really like for tournaments is going to be Clint Capella, matched up against Plumlee. He's 5K. The last 2 games he's looked great. He's still splitting minutes with Nene, so he's only getting about 26, 27 minutes a game. That's a best case scenario for him. But he's put up 36 and 35 FanDuel points the last 2 nights. The rebounding has been great. The blocks the last 2 games, 3 blocks, 5 blocks have been fantastic. At 5K, he's getting to a point where you can almost use him in cash, and he's getting to be a really nice sneaky tournament play too. Robin Lopez at Utah, 4.6K. Dude, another guy. Like the last 3 games, he's given you 30, 29, and 28 FanDuel points. He's, against Gobert, that's a tough matchup. He's going to be low owned though. I mean, I would probably prefer Plumlee over Lopez, and I'd probably prefer Capella too. But he'll be super low owned, and I think he's relatively safe. Even against Utah. I'm not going to have a ton of Lopez, but I'll have a little bit on Thursday. Last guy of the night I'll mention is Joakim Noah. Of course, I played him on Monday. He played 15 minutes, 9 FanDuel points. I did not play him on Wednesday. 25 minutes, 37 FanDuel points. So he's coming on a back. It's a back-to-back for the Knicks. That worries the hell out of me. Tournament only play for sure. He's the classic boomer bust scenario. So many games of 8, 9, 15, 12 FanDuel points. Just brutal nights. Then he's at a couple of 37, 39, 30. So he's capable. I'm not sure his ownership because of recency bias. Maybe it's going to be higher than it should on Thursday. I still would think it'd be relatively low. I'm not using him in cash games. Hell no. But if you want to throw him in some tournaments and hope those he takes steroids again for Thursday, I think that's fine. On a back-to-back though, I'm just not expecting too much from Noah. All right, that is it. We made it. Hopefully that was under an hour. I was trying to keep the show to under an hour. All right, all 5 games. Hopefully you guys will make some money. If you want to enter my daily Chambers tournament, let me know. Every Friday, we run what's called a best of the best tournament, and that's basically winners of the Chambers tournament and people who are at the top of the power rankings. I unleash the power rankings every Friday as well, so we're doing that. That's a lot of fun. So holler at me on Twitter at DanielAGreen1. Other than that, if you could rate and review the podcast, that would be phenomenal. It'd be much appreciated to help us get some sponsors. Then we could do more shows for you. And that's all I got. Otherwise, hope you guys had a good night of Basketball Wednesday and hope you make some serious cash on Thursday. Again, take advantage of this 5-game slate. In my strategy, I kind of play more GPPs and not as much cash games. It's actually a pretty nice slate. And make sure you pay attention to the injury news. Find out what's going on with Wall and Beal and Dragic and Winslow and Rondo. So with that said, I am Daniel Green. I am the judge. Good luck to you, and we will see you tomorrow. Later, guys.